This is Female Furies 5. I saw that your boy had already done a review of it, but I actually had read it and wrote the notes the other night, and I was just too tired to film it, so I went to bed and saw that he had done the review first, which is fine. I figured I had read this book, and it was so painfully bad that if I went through the trouble of reading it, I was going to write a review on it, and it is, it's just not even mediocre. The only thing I say is some of the artwork is pretty good. At first, it seems like the book has a sense of humor, like it's not taking itself too seriously, like it's going to poke fun at the cancer that is feminism. And it sort of does in some places. Then it lapses into pure feminism silliness. It would be funny, but the writer is an NPC and can't think for herself. There is this fat old broad character who could be funny, but every opportunity is wasted because the writer is really, really bad. There is one scene that is so jaw-droppingly stupid. There's one of the chicks expressly gives some guy permission to search her for a hidden transmitter, but one, they were physically intimate in a prior panel, and two, he shows them sucking each other's tonsils out here. Why would you say, Scott, you have permission to touch me to look for it on my person? Who speaks like that? I'll tell you who speaks like that. NPCs speak like that. They're hugging. They just got done kissing. Now you have permission? There's express and implied consent. This is just NPC insanity. Okay, and then this next, they use a 6-panel scene here. You could have used this scene to be flirtatious and sexy and have him, come on, there are more interesting places to look than her kneecap. Okay? This is 6 wasted panels. What is it? Her hip and her kneecap. This is stupid. This could have been sexy and hot and flirtatious, but no, they absolutely ruin it. You wouldn't say, I give you permission to look for it on my body. You just say, hey, help me find this bug. Nobody, this is like these bizarro college feminists who want written consent forms or something, and nobody asks for consent, or nobody, it's just stupid. This is just, as Nurkish would say, this is stupid. The writing is so bad because instead of trying to write a kick-ass story, she is forcing some weird pseudo-feminist talking points for some reason. And I say pseudo-feminist because this isn't real feminism. This is just college, like, liberal feminism. They're not actually sticking up for anything or making a point or trying to gain rights that they don't have. They're just, I don't know what they're trying to do. I say they're trying to just sell books, but they're not selling books. This is just a waste of ink, pretty much. So she gives them permission in such a bizarre way. And they waste 6 panels. Absolute zero sex appeal. Everything in this book feels like it was written by a middle-aged, obese cat lady who's a hardcore feminist, but hasn't had sex in so long that she's starting to rethink her whole existence. Imagine Nurkish saying this is stupid over and over again as you read it. I looked at the shipped figures. The first issue shipped at 27,000, which isn't very good. It's still better than I expected. But of course, by issue 3, it's down to 11,000. But really, opening at such garbage. Okay, so they're looking in the window. That's at least something to look at. Opening at 27,000, it should have been dropped immediately. Oh, but I'm sure the digital sales are amazing. I'm not going to go to the writer's social media. I'm sure it's absolute cancer. I don't understand what their motive is for writing this propaganda. It's not bringing in much money, and as far as propaganda goes, it's not reaching a very wide audience. Issue 5 is probably down below 10,000 sales, or I should say shipped, because we all know that sales and shipped are two different things. Which brings up another point. Who are these 10,000 weirdos who are buying this NPC nonsense? It's a bunch of freaky, muscular women who are whining about the patriarchy. One of them is a 400-pound woman in a bear costume. It looks unbelievably stupid. Another thing. Are these women tough and capable, or touchy-feely wimps? One chick is complaining about being touched when she doesn't want to be. Fine, that is a fair complaint. You have a right to your body's so what did she say? I started thinking about all the times that I had been touched when I didn't want to be. All right, fair enough. And then her co-workers chime in, or been leered at, or been overlooked, or been made to feel invisible. Are those equivalent things? No. Heroes don't whine about being made to feel invisible. Man up, ladies. Man up. You're superheroes. Or something the equivalent. That's something emo girls on their period bitch about on Tumblr. But the writer doesn't know anything about heroes or stories because she didn't read comics. The writer is writing a plot for a Lifetime show, not a comic book. Every time the story starts to get interesting, they throw in some SJW cancer. It comes in little jabs that a reviewer will consciously notice, but the casual reader only notices it in their subconscious. There's a constant undertone of men bad, white skin bad. The reader just knows something is wrong with the vibe of the story. We have these women constantly taking jabs at men, but the reader knows that men are awesome. Men are the creators and builders in society. They get stuff done. Reading stories like this doesn't fit in with our lived experience. Books like this go against millions of years of gender rules. The whole thing is a feminist power fantasy written by complete idiots who are basically writing the comic version of a Harlequin romance novel. It's written by NPCs for NPCs. If a kid reads this and assumes that this is what comics are, then I hope to God that they find comics pre-1990. There may have been good comics post-1990, but pre-90 had plenty of strong comics and graphic novels. Anyway, this comic sucks. I'm sure the earlier issues also sucked. I'm sure any future books by the writer will also suck. Leave a like and a comment. In this panel, they're torturing a blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy to death. Just try to imagine if let's get rid of this blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy and let's make him a black man or a Asian woman. Would everyone still be comfortable torturing an Asian woman to death? Could they torture a black man to death? Would anyone have a problem with that? Torturing a Mexican man to death? How do you think that would fly? But they make they make it very, very clear, blonde hair, blue eyes, and we're going to torture him to death. We might as well call him Drumpf. Am I right, guys? Blonde hair, blue eyes, even his eyebrows are blonde. Does that happen? I don't know. I don't think that happens. Another thing that kind of throws you off kilter about this book is sometimes the art for the women is that this one of these characters in spandex, you'll see butt and boob shots. And it's kind of unusual for an SJW story to include, nobody wants to see this old lady, to include an attractive young female character. But the art doesn't quite match with the SJW. See, it's like a booty like this. That's not often in SJW stories, so it's a little bit weird seeing that. Like in the Captain Marvel books, they try to hide that as much as possible. They do hide it as much as possible. So the art is telling you one story, but the prose is telling you something entirely different. This fat old lady, fat old broad, that's a perfect opportunity to make her very funny. Remember, what was that British show about those two, 40-year-old wine moms who are always drinking and being funny and just ridiculous? It's not Saturday Night Live, but it was like the English version of it. Anyway, I forget. Absolutely Fabulous, I think was the name of it. See, they draw this chick actually looking feminine, but then they have all this weird SJW talking points about, I don't know, something about feminism or something silly. And a big part of the story is these big, strong, muscular women fighting each other. Who wants to see... Is this like a furry costume? It's like a fat Wolverine, a fat, tall Wolverine. Okay, so you've got these big, tall, muscular women fighting each other. Nobody wants to see women beat each other up because nobody wants to see women get hurt. This is just like millions of years of people not wanting to hurt women. And to watch women fight is a very, very bizarre scenario. I was going to say I don't understand how this book is selling well, but it's not selling well. That's the thing. The first book did 27,000. The third book was, I don't know, down to 11,000. So this is the fifth book, so it's down below 10,000. That's why are you wasting your time writing this book? Don't you want to buy a house? Don't you want to buy a rental property? Don't you want to get married and have kids and have money in the bank? You can't do those things if you're selling 10,000 copies. I guess you could. You'd have to write several books a month, which maybe they're doing. I don't know. I'm sure they're doing very, very, very well for themselves, but they could be doing better if they just put the propaganda aside. See, this is kind of a weird image because it looks big old booty and big boobs. You don't see that in SJW comics, but then you have this bizarre women fighting because that's what women do. I mean, we've had millions of years of women taking the roles and fighting. No, wait, that's not what women do. Anyway, this is just so stupid. But you probably won't read it because you're probably not one of the 10,000 people who wasted $4 on this. I would rather you spend $4 on drugs. It would be a better use of your money. Anyway, thanks for listening.